We are breaking down every campaign in Left 4 Dead 2 from the co-op perspective, starting with the immortal and classic No Mercy campaign. Inevitably, we'll miss the odd thing here or there, so once this series is over, we'll have a final upload where we recap everything missed from these 14 episodes. So I'll be keeping an eye in the comment sections and in the Discord server, which can be found in the video description. There is just one disclaimer for the series, which is that I'll be refraining from getting into meta knowledge. Sometimes I will, but I'm a bit of a purist in this game, so I don't like to do things like bunny hop or be killed in the safe house. This also means that I won't be directly going into game data to specify the exact when and wheres of certain spawn items, or go over many tricks that I think are unintended or exploits. There are other materials out there that can give you those answers, but personally, I like to play this game without knowing the meta side of it, only knowing approximations based on my experiences I've played over the years, as this helps me stay immersed in the game, and as such, I will analyze my thoughts and strategies of each campaign through that lens. I hope you enjoy either way, and now let's break down one of Left 4 Dead's most iconic campaigns. Right off the bat, you get faced with an ultimately inconsequential choice. Going down the stairs is technically safer than jumping down the skylight, but just barely. But I'd recommend giving this whole floor just a quick sweep anyways, because you can maybe get pills, a throwable, or another melee weapon. In Left 4 Dead 1, as far back as its demo, people knew that you could also hold your jump button to walk off this ledge and only take 17 damage by landing on this fan, skipping nearly half the chapter. But in Left 4 Dead 2, this was patched and there's an invisible wall blocking it now.
What? Oh, okay, no, they fixed it.
Norm, that was in Left 4 Dead 1, not Left 4 Dead 2, you fool!
This entire first building is very beginner friendly with all the doors to close behind you, not just for new players to get that in-game pop-up to tell them about it, but sometimes you do get an early horde around this particular stairwell and hallway, and the doors make it easier to play around. If you do also get an early horde here, you may also end up seeing this wall get broken down, which is pretty cool. It's something you won't see the majority of the time. What also helps make this building beginner friendly is that it is low stakes to quickly check the side rooms for other items like throwables, temporary health, or melees, because you don't really have to go out of your way for it. In future chapters and campaigns, we'll continue to explore this theme of risk versus reward for a lot of these little side areas, depending on how out of the way they are, and it's always about keeping in mind that the horde will spawn about 90 to 180 seconds apart from each other, so sometimes you'll be faced with a decision of, do I explore here knowing that a horde could be spawning on us soon? But this building, there's no real risk because even if a horde spawns on you, not only are you close to the main path anyways, but where you're fighting from is a good place to hold out in. Since the first horde usually spawns somewhere around this hole in the floor, I'd advise to not jump down there straight away. This wall here basically breaks every single round because of hordes and is there to show you plain as day early on in your Left 4 Dead tenure that breakable walls are a thing you'll see throughout the games. As a side note, Valve has always been great with verticality in their map designs in other games, and I just want to point out that I like that you can see the staircase when you're initially going down it, when you're at this hole, to when you jump down and around. When you jump down, it is worth a quick peek at these two little rooms, as well as the boiler room here for throwables. To the right here, you can see the rubble of the fight from the Left 4 Dead 1 intro. And also as a side note, this entire back area is just for decoration so that you can just kind of take a look around from the starting area. But if you actually look at this particular area, it's very big actually. It's not that important, but it's very big. It almost takes up like half the entire space of this map. When you exit the building, you can go straight or check the side closet. I'm pretty 50-50 on this closet as a general place to venture off for items because it isn't uncommon for nothing to be in there. But if you choose to not want to fight a horde outside, it's not a terrible place to hold out in because you do also have the option to fall back into this back closet inside of it. As for this alley in general, I think the best place to hold out against a horde is right at the top of it here because you can see the 3 directions the infected can come from and it gives you options to maneuver around depending on what's happening. Versus players are very aware of this building, but the second floor is neat because it provides flanking opportunities for infected both in the alley and on the way to the subway station. But for survivors, the first floor is great for holding out and pushing through because there are guaranteed pills, and sometimes you get throwables as well. Another great benefit is the abundance of rooms and geometry provide a lot of cover for fighting hordes in, on top of being a direct path to the safe house. The ultimate decision to make in this chapter would be if you want to go around this long loop here or go straight into the subway station. The more I play this game, the more I like to take the loop because there is a fairly high chance at pills and throwables, and even if a horde does spawn on you, it's easy to get infected to funnel into this doorway and inside. There is still lots of space for you to reposition and kite back if you need to. While this serves as a classic example of going out of your way to gamble with potential item spawns and hordes, I think that due to the chapter's overall easy layout, high spawn rate, and it being a good place to fight a horde, I think it's worth checking out anyways, and also because at the end of the day, it's simply more Left 4 Dead that you get to play. You can also give a quick check back here for this part of the map, though basically nothing ever spawns here. I'm just pointing it out as a place in the map many people may not have thought to stand before. There's also this little area here that are only for infected spawning and pathing. Before going into the safe house, I just want to point out these shelves right here. This asset will appear a fair bit throughout the game, and most of the time, if you're able to stand on them, they are fantastic props to hold out on. That being said, down here, there are invisible walls on top of the shelves, so you can't jump on these ones specifically. Overall, a great beginner chapter to ease players into the game with clear demonstration of doors, breakable walls, fighting inside and outside, as well as showing a good distinction between side rooms and side areas. If I had to make any suggestions, it would be to sometimes have a police barricade or buses here to force people around the long way, or even if it was placed here instead to cut off the middle route, just to keep things a little bit fresh, and maybe breakable boxes here to break your way through to the safe house. There's a lot stacked up in this room already, so I think it just makes sense. Also, we gotta add some traffic lights or stop signs here. There are very clearly supposed to be crosswalks here, but this is dangerous, and there's nothing here protecting the civilians. I also wouldn't mind the odd tank battle here on this first chapter, at least for expert. And you could also always kind of maybe randomize the alarm card placement every now and then. Welcome to No Mercy Chapter 2, where I feel like the game truly begins now. For this first area here, jumping straight down can cause uncertainty. I think the best play is always to jump across and use this angle to pick off commons in view of you, so that you have more space before you jump down, while only really needing to be careful of smokers either down there or up in this little special pocket up here. This entire little pillar room isn't really worth venturing into if there's a good handful of spawns here, in my opinion, especially when you consider that if you go down towards the vent, there's also chances at items there, and also up these stairs at the dead end with nicer map geometry to fight in. If for whatever reason you need to jump back up, you can also jump on top of this rock here to climb back. Sometimes a pipe bomb is a great way to preemptively clear a room before you move forward. If you happen to get a pipe bomb in chapter 1, maybe because you took the long way, right here is a very good one to throw to clean things up so your first steps into the chapter aren't troublesome. I don't hold a strong stance over just going down the vent or taking the stairs, as long as you do eventually check these stairs anyways for a fairly good chance at throwables. Which, by the way, behind this little wooden barricade is this little stairwell, but I have no idea why it's here. Once you do make your way down the escalators, I think this room on the right is a good check for a chance at a slot 4 item or even laser sights. I wouldn't spend a lot of time over here, especially when there's a high chance at primary weapon spawns on the other side of the room. While you get here, you have the option to go left or right, and while ultimately inconsequential, I believe it's better to go right because if you go up to the right here, this side has a garbage can that you can jump on top of to put yourself on top of the train, which you can use for a general high ground advantage, and then you also have the option to jump down and check that side anyways. This back pocket here can also spawn an M60 or grenade launcher. In a normal playthrough, it isn't uncommon for your first horde to be around this area too. If you are down here when it starts, then I like holding this position because you can see far back from where you came from and also have high visibility on this left staircase here. These back corners are also not completely terrible to fall back into either, but usually while high ground is advantageous, being able to shoot up any sets of stairs here is advantageous because the escalators force the commons to funnel for an extended period of time. If you are upstairs during the horde, then the high ground is great from on top of the train car. When you go into this next room too, same thing, it's advantageous to be on the train car, but specifically this one because then they can't get you from behind. And if you have a long range weapon, you've got a great view down the tunnel from where you came from. This room, by the way, is in my opinion not fantastic for pipe bombs because there's lots of ledges infected have to climb up or navigate around, and there just isn't guarantees that you're going to catch everyone. Really quick, this is another cool example of Valve map verticality because of the rubble blocking these specific staircases. You can look down and see where you came from and vice versa. This big tunnel on the right is also kind of funny. It admittedly feels a little bit out of place, but I don't mind it that much at all. I appreciate that there's sometimes a spawn right in the center of it, like I've seen M60s here before. This area in general I'd be wary of because there's a lot of pillars again, and sometimes infected can be hidden from you fairly well within them. I also feel like this is one of those rooms where I see a lot of hordes, if not just a fair density of them being spawned in, and it isn't always as simple as just walking forward. A good pipe bomb throw in this area would be around here where the two ways converge. I'd Molotov one of the two sides as well, usually the one on the left during a horde. A closer Molotov where these points converge isn't bad either. Don't really have much to say about this tight fit here, but when you are exiting, you can wallbang and use these windows to perhaps pick off some infected or special infected that are maybe trying to flank you. Be wary that infected can stand on top of the train car too, and sometimes that's why you take random ticks of damage. I think it's always worth a quick look into the room on the right here, In fact, I wouldn't prefer to move forward through this door on the left here anyways until everyone's already regrouped and checked that right side. The low ceiling and stairs going up with the sharp right turn really reduces visibility, so might as well walk through it with your team once everyone has checked for the potential item spawns on the right. This big pillar room is also another fantastic pipe bomb example if you have one. It isn't uncommon for a lot of idle infected to spawn here. A fun fact is actually that these pillars can be broken by tanks. When it comes to the generator room, what's mainly here to talk about is the holdout event. In Left 4 Dead 1, I remember you could jump up this prop and onto this ledge, and the infected couldn't get you, but in Left 4 Dead 2, it's patched out. You can only get onto this ledge by first going through the door, up the stairs, and then jumping down onto it, which we tested out and it wasn't terrible. If by not terrible, you mean we lived. In Left 4 Dead 1, it also wasn't uncommon to see people holding out at this respawn closet down here, but Spitters and Chargers would like to have a word with us now. Although we did a run of this spot on Expert and it worked out pretty well. You do just gotta pick off the Spitters as they appear and then it's an okay time. For holdout techniques here, the standard lobby play here is to throw a gas can on this side of the minigun, and then you can save the second gas can to either chain it later, or usually what happens is it gets thrown down the hole so you've got fire on both sides of you. A normal, healthy lobby will use this gas can placement while you have a combination of people on top of lockers and in this back corner. What I often find happens with this setup is that special infected like Chargers and Smokers can cause disruption on the left side, and Spitters are also pretty menacing here. As a result, this generator holdout can actually make you kind of work for it a little bit. If you do want a safer alternative, I actually think that if you jump down the hole and back through the pillar room, you can instead chain your gas cans either at this doorway here, or you can even run further back across the tracks to have your setup like this. This makes it so every infected need to funnel to get to you, and then they'll do so through fire. The main problem is that if one person gets picked off while running back, it's not a guarantee that you'll be able to bail them out. While jumping down here, we also tried at this back corner, and it was easy to see far ahead and set up crossfires. Looping back to that door, it turns out that you can also hold out in front of the door, though it's admittedly a more claustrophobic fight. Once the door opens, you can just hold out in this area and under the stairs, which is surprisingly spacious. We also tried this one where we had one person standing on each generator here, and it surprisingly wasn't terrible, but one smoker and suddenly it can be an uphill climb. In all scenarios, fire right here was always very helpful. One of the most common flanks for infected in this event is them jumping down this ledge, so this fire source helped us start off all of our holdouts on the right foot. In Left 4 Dead 1, I would see a fair amount of my lobbies hold out underneath this pipe here, but in Left 4 Dead 2, it's definitely more risky because of Spitters. Lastly, there are a couple of last minute spots we tried. Running up here to the donut room isn't bad at all if you want to shake things up. Or you could stay down in this back corner over here. Maybe you could do a 2-in-2 corner type of holdout. The moral of the story for these holdouts is that there's a lot of good spots you can try out with your friends, some more tedious than others, but ultimately still viable in co-op and realism. Another observation from this event is that the further you run back from the event, and in turn all the flanking spots that Valve set up, the more the horde will start to get funneled into you, making the holdout easier. We'll continue to explore this theme as we analyze each campaign. Once you get up onto the second floor afterwards, you can technically explore this big loop, but nothing ever really spawns back here, and it takes a long time, so not normally the best use of your time. It is, however, a great tank kiting ring if you happen to find yourself here. In the Left 4 Dead 1 demo, you only played the first 2 chapters of No Mercy, and the second chapter ended right in this room. Looking out this window doesn't show much, just a bit further into the map. This final building before you head outside to the safe house is interesting because if you choose to check all the rooms, you will usually find at least something you can use. But normally people like to save time by stepping onto this ledge and then hopping down onto the mailbox or van. If time is a priority for you, then you can also consider this first room here, where you can jump out the window and onto the garbage. And then not only can this serve as a sneaky exit out onto the streets, but then you're also right at this doorway here, which can lead you straight to some rooms to check out, including this room, which can have some primary weapon spawns. The only thing to consider about checking all these rooms thoroughly is that you're definitely going to be testing that horde spawn timer. And by the time you're at this point in the chapter and after the generator room, there's a chance your team may not be the most healthy, which is why I think most of the lobbies I'm in prefer to just jump down and skip this building entirely. Either that or by this point, they have loadouts they're already happy with and searching through everything would be redundant. Once you're outside, walking down the street, there isn't too much to say. I do feel like a lot of my playthroughs end up seeing a horde during this final stretch here before the safe house, and that's even ignoring the alarm car.
I'm choosing to look around here for things in general. I just know I'm going to step out there and a horde's going to spawn and I'm not going to have a pipe bomb. So what I might as well should do is search around here for a bit, see if maybe it gives us things. And then when this horde does spawn, there we go. We are fighting in this corridor. Uh-oh. Thank goodness. So we can just fight in the corridors. You Molotov the one side.
There is this little side room over here, which can sometimes have pills or something, and I'm mainly showing it just for the sake of showing, but you can go your whole life without needing to come here. There's also this neat little fun fact where if you kept going in a straight line here, you'd connect to these two areas, but it's mainly for infected spawning and flanking. And on this side, you can see a bit of Chapter 3. There's your first ever look at a burger tank. You can also play this piano. And this isn't an uncommon chainsaw spawn, and I've never regretted checking out these two back closets here. When I make suggestions for maps, they're ideally going to be what you saw last chapter in terms of potential map pathing or where I would place breakable things. For map pathing, I think early on, maybe you could have geometry which would force you to go one way or the other up these escalators. I wouldn't do this, but how funny would it be if there were a bunch of temporary barricades or trains aligning it so that you would be forced to like go up this way and then back down the train tracks, back down the stairs, and then looping back up again to go the normal way. You know, that would be a little excessive, but it would be pretty funny. This tunnel in the wall here, what if sometimes you were forced to walk down this way because of another tipped over train car blocking the main tracks? Though checking that one corner for throwables would be a little bit more annoying. This would be a mild idea, but if like this train's doors were closed, so you were forced to jump up onto some props to go on top of the train instead, or if after the generator room you had to jump out the window and onto a dumpster because of a pile of desks, vending machines, or something blocking this way, but then there's a police barricade or a big vehicle blocking the alley, so you would have to go back through the first floor. Also randomizing the placement of this alarm car could be something. Maybe you could even put the alarm car right here at the beginning of the chapter. The start of chapter 3 has a nice little loop, and it may seem like you have the option to just turn left and go straight into the chapter, which is technically true, but with so many throwables, health, and weapon spawns off to the right side here, I think there isn't much of a choice. Even this particular garage can have things like a chainsaw or special bullets, and this truck will have the odd thing in it too. It's not uncommon for people to sort of take their time around here, and then when a horde spawns, they just run back here for a holdout because it's so strong. We will also literally come back to the spot in a second. Also, I've been noticing that around the beginning of this chapter here, there is always a survivor zombie that you can shoot for a 5th medkit. Transitioning into the burger tank, I've got no real analysis here other than it's one of the easier choke points to walk out of because of the window separating the cashiers from the kitchen. Also, look at these prices. Extra large fries for $1.50, barbecue rib sandwich for $2.50, milkshakes for $2.50. Dude, Burger Tank's got that Costco hot dog price going on. And you can also sometimes check the side left bathrooms here for items like laser sights. I usually find that once you finish the first lap in the chapter, you're usually good to go, but we have found lasers here before, so yeah. And when I walk into this open area here, I always climb up onto the truck here for a general vantage point and high ground, but then I like to walk through this little garage here to see what potential items are here as well. Back here, you can see the way you came from in chapter 2. Also got to give a huge shout out to this gas station sequence here. It is really cool to have this optional interaction in the campaign, and I wish we had more of them. It's a funny way to troll friends, and there even happens to be a potential use for it. Also would be cool if, for example, maybe there was a gauntlet event somewhere where in order to end the horde, you run past something and then you shoot it once everyone has passed, and then whatever you shoot or activate causes something to collapse and block the path behind you, ending the horde. This room up here is also a neat one to explore. You can just climb up this ladder on the dumpster, or if you shoot the gas pumps, you can walk up this debris. This room specifically, I think, is kind of middling in terms of risk versus reward. Checking it out more often than not usually ends up not really finding anything too crazy that the team will want to care about. And then it results in the team kind of waiting on the lift, waiting for you to regroup with them. As for the scissor lift event, first off, you actually don't need to run forwards with it. If you really want to play it crazy safe, you can actually run back through this room I just mentioned and then use it to jump down this truck and back to this garage here. There's a fairly good chance there's leftover throwables here, so you can chain those for an easier time, while also abusing this crossfire opportunity here since the infected can really only come from one of 2 long, tight corridors. You can even run all the way back to the safe house if you really like. Running back, we also held out in this room and it proved to be very easy as well. You can see the infected from far away, they have to climb up multiple ledges, and the special infected tried to flank us by climbing up this long pipe next to us, so it was really easy to pick them off without ever having to fight them. Perhaps you'd like to run back to this corner near the gas station. Though if you're going to Molotov behind you to cut off the flank from behind, a reminder that fire can and will spread through the fence. We also held out in the burger tank and gave the horde a $4 ass whooping. To my surprise, virtually no infected tried to flank us from behind here, so we only had to deal with the front. If you decide to run further back through the burger tank, you can do this fence back here. In our attempt, they didn't flank us from behind. This garage was also a fairly easier holdout too, and kind of surprisingly, this bottom corner right next to the scissor lift worked out really well. Like really well. Same thing as generator room holdout. By running back from the event area, infected start to funnel in, and the challenge can be less about holding out, but actually just getting to that holdout, which normally isn't a hassle either. If running forward, first off, you can jump on this side of it to kind of hop up faster by about a second. I wouldn't really recommend holding out on this roof in general. A lot can go wrong. While a little unnecessary, if you have a pipe bomb you don't mind using here, this is a good one to throw back down the way you came to guarantee an easy jog to the first room. It's actually how I got the Pyrotechnician achievement in Left 4 Dead 1 on my first playthrough way back then. Once in this room, I personally don't think it's a great holdout to jump down the hole. So because of that, this was normally what you saw way back in Left 4 Dead 1's early days. For Left 4 Dead 2, a single charger jumping down the hole can cause chaos. The spitter can split up teams so that they can't see each other. And really, there's just safer ways to go about it. I think it's much safer to stay in this shelf room because then they have to climb up on both ends. Speaking of shelves, hopping up on these shelves, as I mentioned, will always be strong, not just because of the elevation, but because in this room you can hop back and forth between the two and open up options for yourself in general. This spot specifically also allows you to see both of the flanks. Biggest thing to watch out for is if you are holding the hole, it's safer to stand on this side because if you stand on the other side, you can get smokered down and it's a long way back up.
Also, if you're holding out in the hole, a smoker can still pull you down here. That's exactly what I was talking about, actually.
If for whatever reason it's important to you in the moment, instead of jumping down this hole, it's technically safer to peek this room by going down the pipe because you can get right behind cover again. If you continue to run forward, perhaps this room may interest you as a place to hold out in. All of these rooms afterwards in general can be a little time consuming to check each and every one. I guarantee you that if you take it upon yourself to check all of them, your team will be ahead of you and waiting for you. It's a good practice to look in their rooms you know haven't been searched yet. Teammates will usually call out something if they think it's important enough for you to know. This button you can press here I think is a cool map design because every now and then you need to kite a tank back, and if you do go back all the way out to the main area for whatever reason, it's just a much quicker way to return instead of running, climbing, and running all the way back down again. A shout out to this little area up here that are just for the infected to spawn in and flank from. I don't really have anything to say about this room other than the tank can punch this forklift, and one time I saw a witch spawn up on one of the shelves. There is also technically this infected flank up here too, which kind of connects to the one we mentioned earlier. These stairs are a little funny. You can technically slide through between these poles on the way down if you want. Funny enough, so I actually have plus left binded to 1 and plus right binded to 2, so that I can still look around if I happen to like scratch my nose while reviving someone or something. But it also makes running down these stairs feel a little smoother. This is a cramped but very much existent place in the map you may or may not be backed up into sometimes. This is also a good pipe bomb room because of all the geometry, and the infected can just simply run to it. They don't have to jump over things. You can also hop onto this pipe and onto one of these tanks for a high ground advantage. You have the option to go straight down this first hole or to go off to the right. Here's the pros and cons to each one. For the right side, there's usually item spawns like throwables and health, but if you jump down there, it's possible to get blindsided or ambushed from behind by like a boomer or something. If you jump down the center, there aren't normally any items around it, but you do land on this pipe and it isn't really possible for anything significant to also be standing on it. So the right side will have items, and the center one is, in my opinion, a bit of a safer drop. Once you are down, a neat map detail is that you can follow the lights to advance forward. It is neat that there are also these paths here though. It's worth exploring all of them at least once, but ultimately in your normal playthroughs, there won't really be a reason to run through any of these, except for if you jump down the center and you want a fast route forward in the campaign by going this way. Otherwise, they're all right for tank kiting. But tank fights down here in general, you gotta be careful and intentional with how you path because the water will extinguish any fire. If you really do decide to check through each and every pocket of the sewer, you will become pretty disappointed with how there's basically nothing and now more infected are spawning on you. And all of this applies to part 2 of the sewers as well. I discovered this late in the production of this video, but in this area that connects the 2 sewer portions, there is this spawning area for infected to be able to flank you from above. Even more curious is that you can actually get a nice little view of Mercy Hospital from here. Oh, and hey, did you know that in this part of the area, if you look up, you can sometimes see the helicopter circling the roof? Going up this ladder can be quite risky sometimes because you can be swarmed from all directions afterwards. This is a prime time for a pipe bomb or bile jar throw. Otherwise, you can go up, aggro them to you, and then climb back down. Or what I usually do, which is more risky, is I like to move back to this little staircase here. A neat map detail I like here is that if you are back here, you can see Mercy Hospital, and that is a legitimate part of the chapter you eventually get to. There aren't many things worth exploring in this final area. You can look at the back of this truck, which usually has something in it, and there's always this medkit here at the ambulance before you enter the hospital. I always like to check these two rooms before going into the next chapter, but I'm starting to become convinced that nothing ever really spawns here. Chapter 3 is a great classic, in my opinion, though I'm pretty nostalgia based. You know how sometimes you have memories in one campaign that you get reminded of every time you play it afterwards? For me personally, at the beginning of Chapter 3, in Left 4 Dead 1 Versus, I remember my team getting instantly wiped by 3 hunters and 1 smoker, which I remember every time. If I were to update this map, I think maybe I'd stack breakable boxes around this doorway here, because it's a storage area and it makes sense, barring any downsides that can come with potential infected flanks being nerfed or whatever. Also just some geometry here to maybe force people to go one way or the other. I'd also maybe make it so that sometimes only one of the sewer hatchets will open up, forcing you to have to go down one way. If there was also something which forced you to sometimes have to maneuver through the cramped tunnels in the sewers, that might be interesting, though I'm not sure what props they'd even use for that. Maybe you could also put an alarm car, maybe like here, or here. Before I even start with Chapter 4, I gotta say you would expect there to be way more defibs in a hospital. But I digress, there are a lot of little rooms you can get carried away with searching throughout this entire chapter, but most of them aren't going to net you much because of the sheer amount of rooms there are to search. I don't think holding out in any of these rooms are bad. However, what isn't uncommon is people will be split up looking in different rooms, or others are also just trying to push forward in the map and then infected spawn while people are isolated and spread out, and it kind of goes the way you would expect it to. My personal route is taking a quick gander at the left side here for health or throwables, and then going down the right here to look for a Desert Eagle. It's easy to get carried away in checking all the rooms sometimes, so really try to limit yourself if you really don't need to. Remember, your team combined will have 4 tier 2 weapons at this point, and with all the corridors here, that's more than enough to get you to where you need to go. Kind of just talking to myself at that point. This is also a great pipe bomb opportunity to really flush out a lot of these rooms, or you can close the doors as you walk by them. And Left 4 Dead! Would you look at that? Up the stairs and into this sort of main area here where the ceiling raises and there's more space. This is more often than not where you will find yourself during pre-elevator tank fights, as naturally you will find yourself kiting back and not wanting to get back into a dead end. This is a great spot to loop up the stairs and then back down and vice versa. This room is also perhaps a place to run back to during the elevator event, but we'll go over elevator holdout spots once we get there. Also in this room, funny enough, is a little closet that I didn't know existed for over 10 years. In Left 4 Dead 1, you were able to jump up the geometry of things and into the window and get yourself wedged in there for a really safe vantage point, but in Left 4 Dead 2, the window parts are patched out so you can't go up that far anymore. In this back corner off to the left here are more rooms to look at, but also is this elevator shaft, which we will look at later. But basically, the 4 floors you are on to start off with all connect to this exact elevator shaft, and same as this spiral staircase, but once we get to the 4th floor, we'll look at this more. When I walk into this room, I do not think it's bad at all to loop around just a little bit longer so you can just go through this little like snack area just for info. Don't really have any comments on the following respawn bathrooms or this room up the top of the stairs. It follows a similar theme as the previous rooms. There can be a throwable or temporary health, but not all the time, and the overall pace of the team needs to be kept in mind. There's always this primary weapon spawn here, and sometimes there's a deagle. If you go far enough, you'll also see the elevator shaft from the 3rd floor. So once you go up the stairs, personally a huge fan of this breakable wall when it's down. It's a more direct way and usually safer way to move forward. It also creates a loop on this 4th floor that a tank can be kited around in. I often find that checking all of these back rooms here isn't usually worth it. Not only is it out of the way, but there's usually more spawns closer to the elevator event anyways, but you do sometimes find the odd like pills or throwable. And speaking of elevators, now that we're on the 4th floor, we can look a bit at this particular shaft in general. Pause. From the 2nd floor, you can just jump down no problem. From the 3rd floor, you gotta catch the roof of this elevator on the side. From the 4th floor, you need to get this slip on the 3rd floor and then proceed down as normal. You don't even need to hold jump to walk off. This is helpful for running back from witches or tanks. In one of my streams, I used this to just run back to the safe house during a solo playthrough for the lulz. Speaking of this elevator shaft and holdout spots, for the elevator event, you can hold out on top of this elevator and it's a funny and viable time. You can also run back to the 3rd floor and hold out in this one-way hallway. Another hallway you can run back to is here, which, like many places here, will force all the infected into one long choke point. So when we're not running back halfway through the map, this whole area is pretty unique. From above, the entire layout looks a little something like this. So it comes to no surprise that the common holdout is right here, where they can only come from one direction. I've also held out in this room before as well over the years to shake things up a bit. This room is also pretty neat as it becomes an easier run to get in there if the infected have already broken down the walls beforehand. Whether it is this room here or this room over here, I find it's pretty common to find throwables. Now, the majority of your games will find people holding out in this room because it's tried and true, but every now and then it will actually be sketchy trying to run back because someone can get picked or the horde will spawn close. If you aren't making the run from the button to the room, a key choke to hold to cover your teammate would be this cross section right here. It's usually, not always, but usually this hallway that they will spawn from first, and then they can cut off the person making the run. If you are already here, then you can intercept the interception. This will always be a good pipe or Molotov opportunity as well. When running back to any holdout spot your team decides, this principle of identifying the key intersection will give your runner the space that they need. If you are the one making the run and everyone's already huddled up, a good pipe bomb will, as always, be situational, but you can throw a pipe bomb into this area. But this pipe bomb doesn't need to be that specific. The role of this one is simply to have them aggro to something else at the time that you're crossing this intersection here. Even if the infected end up crossing you, you're still able to shove your way to where your teammates are. If you never touch versus, you'll never see this, but here's a neat spawning area for infected to spawn in and flank from. You can see it covering most of the rooms in this area, so they can drop down from the ceilings. In Left 4 Dead 1, there's also this part of the vent that trickles into the elevator shaft, but it is removed in Left 4 Dead 2. And yes, this elevator actually does descend and ascend in real time. There are no map tricks here, but the elevator also appears earlier than the game tells you. And also, I have to say, if you've got access to the Steam Workshop, the elevator music mod is amazing.
This has got to be one of my favorite mods here.
When inside the elevator, jumping will look like this, and it's funny. I often find in even public lobbies, if one person starts jumping, then everyone else will start jumping too. It's like when you're playing Deep Rock Galactic and then you press V.
Rockin' stone!
It's also cool that they have this failsafe option here to prevent throwables and fire from being thrown in the elevator instead of clipping outside. Also cool that when no clipping around here, you can see that the items you drop in here do follow behind and get popped back into the elevator once it's reached the top. And it snaps you back in to make sure you aren't bugging outside of it. Once up here, it still follows a similar pattern as the first few floors in that there's numerous yet ultimately inconsequential rooms to check out. There is a loop around the elevator, which only ever holds more zombies, but it's fun to know, and sometimes you might have to loop a tank around here. I don't ever remember seeing this wall being broken down before the last stand update, but I could be wrong. There's an advantage that infected can't flank you from the outside, narrowing down the directions you'll actually need to look in. This ledge in general, it's fun to sidestep things like hunters and chargers to watch them fall off the ledge. I also like to think that whenever I push these props off the ledge that there's an infected getting pelted by it down below. It's possible to parkour your way up and wedge yourself into the scaffold here as perhaps a temporary holdout spot. Be careful that a tank can also get up here. You can make this jump here both ways, as well as this jump. There's no real advantage to it, but it's fun. Over the years, I found myself never really checking these back rooms right before the safe house. You can certainly take a look to see if maybe there are pills around. This specific room's always got a gas can, but oftentimes you'll find that people at this point just want to get to the safe house where there is guaranteed throwables and first aid kits anyways. If you're going to bring the gas can into the next chapter with you, make sure the safe house door doesn't close on it. These breakable beams are fun. There aren't many updates I'd make to this map. On the second floor, maybe the odd knocked over vending machine that sometimes make you path through here. Maybe if the elevator would stop for one reason or another and then you'd have to run to flip a nearby electrical switch. Maybe that switch isn't always in the same spot. On the top floor, sometimes have things like sandbags or other construction props to make you have to circle around right before the safe house. These breakable beams and planks maybe make sense to just put some on the main path if they won't heavily interfere with the infected. Or, maybe you can use this scaffold as part of an alternative route. For our finale, as mentioned, you start off with lots of throwable spawns. If you have extra pipe bombs, it's tempting to perhaps throw one down the hallway, then run back for another pipe bomb. A heads up that, at minimum, a good chunk of idols spawn in this room on the right behind doors and won't be able to break down the door in time to get caught by the explosion. So you either need to throw one, jump back down and pick up another one, or sprint down to open this door, chuck it, then run back. And in both cases, you can expect to really start trailing behind your team, and it isn't really worth it. So future norm,
It's time to stop!
Checking these rooms, I find, aren't usually worth it, especially when you already have throwables from the safe house. When it comes to this elevator shaft, instead of going through the vent, you're probably aware of this little gap you can jump or walk along. You cannot pop adrenaline to jump this gap and have your team pull you off. Climbing up this ladder in Left 4 Dead 1, they didn't have these rails here, but now there are rails because of the versus implications, but a charger can still charge you off the edge if they go this way. You can jump off normally. You can also go off this side, over the rail, onto this fan, and then down. In Left 4 Dead 1, you can break open and hold out in these rooms here, but that's patched in Left 4 Dead 2, which I feel is a bit of a missed opportunity in my opinion. But I guess even with chargers and spitters, they may have felt like it was too strong. Now this is weird because one of the rooms still exists. You just can't break the door anymore. In Left 4 Dead 1, they also used to have this setup here, but it was really strong as well. People would do 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom of the stairs, or hold out all the way up here. You may have noticed this bottom corner here and not thought much about it. In Left 4 Dead 1, you were able to hop down here, go idle, and it would teleport you into the safe house, so now you can't stand here, period. The consistent theme that we'll see in our finales is there are a lot of spaces you can hold out in so long as you're playing with your team. Lone wolf strategies, where you stack 3 somewhere and 1 elsewhere, usually go the way you expect. There's a lone wolf strategy we tried, and it's funny it worked like this. You can't start the event until everyone jumps down. When I stayed on this event, my team couldn't start it, but when I was starting to dangle from the vent, they were able to start it. The go-to strat in public lobbies is this side here. This is strong because in order to flank you from the front, they need to climb up 2 sets of ledges, and you're usually sitting on throwable spawns as well. So long as you don't play too dangerously towards the front ledge, you have a lot of protection. Smokers usually will climb up here and try to pull you down. A quick tip, if you hold out here, you can stand up here and press E to drop your gas cans so that they're always out of the way. The pattern with this map specifically is that there are a lot of ledges and platforms to run around, and usually so long as you aren't on the ground level, then there are ways that you can make it work. We have also held out directly across from the standard space where the other throwables spawn, and that wasn't a bad time either. In the corners of the map are these columns with spotlights on them. These are also potential holdout spots, given you have the move speed to make the jump over to them. The biggest hurdle is the spitter and the pandemonium of having to jump down and regrouping whenever the spit is there, unless all 4 survivors were to jump forwards at the same time, but that never happens. If people use this holdout, they normally use this pillar on the side, but it is also possible to execute the jump on this side, and even in this corner as well. Though if you do it from this corner, the jump only works one way. When holding out on these, I recommend shooting out the light so that it doesn't get in your face. When you hold out here, sometimes you can avoid spit by jumping into the light, but sometimes the spit's on there too. Also, on a couple of occasions, a combination of spit and this light have caused me to be catapulted into the sky for a minute before teleporting back down. You can also jump across the holdout here, but be careful as there's no ledge to grab you if you back up too far. I've also seen plenty of holdouts up here by the weapons and the miniguns, with the backstairs being the only real point of problems if no one keeps an eye on it. We also had a playthrough where a couple of us held out on this higher tower that smokers usually like to hold out on, and some other quick ideas. Underneath the helipad is a spot. It's a claustrophobic and risky spot, but it is a spot that we survived a wave in. We tried holding out on this particular vent and discovered that the infected can really only climb up on the left side, which helps things, but of course, spitters. We did also try this other vent over here, but genuinely, it doesn't really seem to work too well. The process of getting back up is pretty grueling. Finally, we noticed that you can also jump down onto this column from the vent pointing opposite of the holdout, but it's a one-way endeavor, and holding out here doesn't work. Something fun about this chapter is that this building specifically has 2 grenade launchers, which I like to jump to for tank fights. This little surface right here is also a nice little cheeky path to know for clutch situations, repositioning, or tank fights. When making the run to the helicopter, the pipe bombs and bile jars usually go back towards the minigun, but so long as it's away from the helipad, it's hard to go wrong. There aren't any changes that I would make to this chapter. I think it's completely fine as is. Maybe you could revert the roof to be like the Left 4 Dead 1 version, if perhaps it's on easy, or normal, or if there's just been multiple resets. And that's what I've got for No Mercy. Let me know about your favorite spots or strategies with this map, especially if it's something that I missed. And as we go through this series, I would like to hear your direct feedback on the formatting and delivery so that by the time we're in about our 3rd episode, the series is as great as it can be. So I'll be keeping an eye on the comments and in the Discord, which can be found in the description. Real quick, I would like to give some thank yous to members of my Discord who came out and joined me for some of these off-stream sessions where we experimented with different holdout locations. Those helping me were Flame, Road Team Manga and Yellow, Average Water Enthusiast, Boss Kicks, Amari72V, and their friend John. Thanks again for tuning in. If you liked this video and want to catch the other breakdowns as they are uploaded, please be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the future. To close out this video, here are some of my favorite No Mercy memories that I've acquired over the past several years. Peace.
Why? It's a great strategic advantage.
So Nora, what have we learned?
Nothing.
This is not. Some pills. Need these.
Let me know when it's safe.
It
no.
looks safe.
I didn't mean to jump.
Hold on.
Oh, that hunter. The smoker.
No!
It didn't work. I tried something and it didn't work. Wait, what? Wait, did the pipe bomb just get like stuck underneath me?
Oh no! Switch that to zombie!
This fire. Half-life details. I'm gonna go for the flat play here. I'm gonna hit it with the baseball bat.
I'm gonna shoot patches.
The flat play worked.
Just looking at dumb videos.
Oh! I thought it was just that was killing us. No, it was just Nora.
Gotta do it for flat.
I'm doing
God,
it.
we're getting so easy though. It's easy.
I think I need another invite.
I shall invite you.
Look at the bottom left of your main menu.
What?
Wait, what?
Oh.
Well,
Yeah, I didn't see where she was. That's fine.
There's a smoker. Ooh. Whoa.
Definitely. Oh, that was a bad idea.
Can someone help me,
Whoops.
please?
Yeah, that's right, witch. That's right, witch.
Guys, I'm over
Oh wait, no. Oh no. Okay, well apparently my health is at 0, but I'm not dying. Oh yes.
It's getting mad.
Oh.
Why would you do this?
I'm reloading. Hold up, I gotta heal.
oh god, there's a witch. I didn't realize she was right there.
Keep aggravating that.
No! Get.
Goodbye.
See you later.
Oh, see ya. Explosion out of nowhere, and I'm incapped because Flap was walking in front of me. Don't throw that gas can at me.
Oh, there's a tank.
Whoa! I thought you were all zombies. Watch out! Smoker! We're all friends here. We're all good friends. We're all good friends here.
Oh my god.
We're all good friends. We can do this.
Yeah, flame, I'm clipping that.
Alright, 3, 2, 1, go. I f***ed that up!
God, you killed me.
How did that bounce back?
You just touched the alarm card.
Oh, and I heard it.